It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Jason Snell, Andy Iannacco, Alex Lindsay are all here. We're going to talk about, of course, Elon Musk declaring war on Apple. Who would win that war, do you think? Big trouble in Little China. And now you can dive with your Apple Watch Ultra. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 846, recorded Tuesday, November 29th, 2022. 1-0 to the Arsenal. This episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by 8 Sleep. For a limited time, 8 Sleep is offering Twit listeners up to $400 off their Sleep Fit holiday bundle by visiting 8sleep.com/twit. After November 30th, go to 8sleep.com/twit to check out the pod and look for other exclusive holiday savings, or save $150 at checkout with our usual offer. And by the new and recently updated Tricaster 2 Elite by NewTek, the most complete live production system on the planet. There's a Tricaster for every production, including yours. Visit go.newtek.com/twit-tv, where an interactive guide will advise you on which Tricaster is right for you. Thanks for listening to this show. As an ad-supported network, we are always looking for new partners with products and services that will benefit our qualified audience. Are you ready to grow your business? Reach out to advertise@twit.tv and launch your campaign now. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show we cover the latest news from Apple. Joining us now from his fortress of solitude in beautiful downtown officehours.global, Alex Lindsay.
When you start with that intro, I'm like, I don't know who he's going to go to.
I know. I like to keep it.
Just like,
you know who else doesn't know? John Ashley is going, he's got his finger on all three buttons. He's going,
what does that mean?
Who is this going to be? I like to mix it up. Keep you on your toes. Hello,
Yeah,
Mr.
absolutely.
Lindsay.
Hello.
How are you today?
It's good to be here.
Looking gorgeous as always.
Why, thank you.
By which I mean you're not you, but you're shot. That's Andy Iannacco. Got him to laugh.
Wow. That was genuine laughter because that was funny, but also an appreciation for very few people who are not like Italian mothers can really get the combination of a compliment, but then a back of the head.
I'm well trained. I really am. WG, BH in Boston.
You should wear that suit jacket more. It really makes you look like you're not a totally out of shape blob of blubber.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
You don't even have to be that. You could just say, "Oh, that suit really looks good. You don't look nearly as heavy."
You look so presentable.
There you go. That's people tell me you clean up good. That's the one where I go, okay, fine. Okay, fine. Also, Jason Snell, who has his very own fortress of solitude.
There are 2 cats here. I am not in solitude. I have 2 cats with me.
Cats in your garage.
It's totally not just me. There's cats.
We have a cat now that whenever we sit and watch TV, gets up in front of the TV and doesn't look at the TV like I could make a good video out of it. But no, looks at us like, why are you watching this?
Yep.
And then after that, for a little while, she goes and sits on my head, which Lisa then posts on Mastodon, and then my whole life is over. Welcome, all 3 of you. Speaking of Twitter, were we? Elon has apparently declared war against Apple. This should be fun. Get the popcorn, kids. I did not know this, but apparently Apple represents 48% of the advertising.
Oh, I don't know if it's that much, but it's 40. I think it's 48 million.
I'm sorry. Maybe I got the 48 wrong. Exactly. It's not.
Because I think that would be 2.5 billion if it was 48%.
Yeah, that would be really ridiculous. That would be insane. But Apple is a big advertiser. I think the biggest. Am I misremembering?
Yeah, it's the largest single advertiser. So the funny thing is, a lot of people have stopped advertising, but Apple is the one that he decided to pick on because it's a really.
And by the way, I can tell you, as an ad-supported network myself, I bet you'll agree with me, Jason Snell. The worst way to get advertisers to come back is to whine about them leaving.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Apparently, there's a strategy at work here where Elon actually has gone to a bunch of advertisers and harangued them about dropping their advertising or reducing their advertising. And you're like, well, why would you make them angry? But the other story is that a bunch of other advertisers have decided not to do it right now because they don't want to be bugged by Elon Musk. And they're like, just give him their money, and I don't want to get his phone call, which is kind of is that a strategy? But I guess it is.
Also, it's not a personal thing. The Verge got to look at an email or an advisory from a group called the Omnicom Media Group that they have clients, including Apple, that they advise for advertising, and they're telling all of its clients to, quote, pause activity on Twitter in the short term, unquote. Speaking that they're concerned about impersonation, layoffs, safety issues, resignations of people who are responsible for FTC compliance. So if Elon thinks that he's so the king of the world that this can only be a personal vendetta between Apple and Elon, as opposed to, hey, I got an email from this company that we trust to keep us out of trouble when we advertise. We are one of the many companies that they told, hey, you might want to back off of Twitter. We decided, hey, that's not going to hurt us if we drop their advertising, and they did it. That's all that happened.
Elon yesterday launched a multiple tweet storm. He said Apple has mostly stopped advertising on Twitter. Do they hate free speech in America? That's an interesting conflation.
Why didn't he ask if Apple? He might as well just say, Apple, have you stopped beating your wife? Right?
Yeah,
it's one of those.
It's it really is exactly like
a joke.
That.
Yeah.
He said, Tim, what's going on here at Tim_Cook? Remember, Phil Schiller did close his account on Twitter. He is responsible for the App Store, and for that reason, Elon is also tweeting, Apple has also threatened to withhold Twitter from its App Store, but won't tell us why. These all came within minutes of each other on Twitter yesterday. So it's like you're declaring war, right? But Apple, quite reasonably, being a almost $2 trillion company, just whatever.
Yeah, because that's all you do.
I feel something down there. Something's kicking my shin. I don't know what it is. But it's only a little irritating. I might, I got too many other things to think about.
No, it's exactly. No, it's when there's someone, a neighbor on your block or a coworker in your neighborhood is just being an irrational, crazy idiot, making allegations that that almost nobody is going to put any stock in. Why would you want to join? Why would you want to jump in and mud wrestle with that idiot? And now we are. I'm just baffled that someone who reports
I can tell you why
made so much money without investing in some sort of a pyramid scheme and losing it all.
I could tell you why.
It's just silly.
Elon thinks Apple's just like him, and he would never let such a thing stand, right? And so he just assumes that Apple somehow is Tim Cook is going to be like him and tweet back, which would be very good for
not a professional, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's $48 million according to the Washington Post in the last quarter. The top advertiser on Twitter. I'm sorry, the first quarter of the year. So multiply that times 4. It's a not insignificant amount of money. I mean, it's not billions. 4% of Twitter's revenue in Q1.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other issue is I think a lot of times people get really successful because they did the right thing at the right time, and then they map their success onto that they do the right thing all the time. Yeah. And so they're in this kind of, I think he thinks that what he does, because he had these big companies, he picked the right time to do a lot of great things that the world was waiting for, and he's become very wealthy doing that. But I think he's equating that to his other decisions are smart too, and that and I think that he just so of course he's looking at it through that lens, and I think that's a hard lens to look through because he's going to.
Somebody got to him because he's pulled down a lot of these. He tweeted a meme that he wants to go to war with Apple, which is I can't show you because it's now gone.
Well, he took a picture of a gun.
He showed his. This was very weird. His bedside table, which had firearms and 4 consumed Diet Cokes.
Someone said you can't have the CEO taking pictures of guns and Coke. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. Guns and Coke. I get it. Lawyers, guns, and money. He's doing a Warren Zevon thing, maybe.
I don't know.
Anyway, he also tweeted, do you know Apple puts a secret 30% tax on everything you buy through their app store?
And the response was like,
and then
Steve,
spoiler alert.
The response to it was so funny because people were posting like Steve Jobs literally put this into a presentation. Here's the slide for your secret,
So what he's probably referring to, I would guess, Apple, as you remember, took Parler off its app store because they didn't have adequate content moderation. Parler responded and it came back. I presume that's what, by the way, Apple has done nothing publicly. But maybe he got a secret message from Tim Cook saying, hey, if you don't get the content moderation under control, we're going to have to yank you. I don't know. Or maybe he's making it up. At this point, no one knows what the hell Elon is going on in that brain.
He probably he was like, why are we only getting $5.50 for every person upgrading? And they're like, well, there's a
30% tax, Elon.
Exactly. So.
But he chose that because he chose to make the blue check only available on iOS.
Because I think he didn't. I don't know if he fully understood what that would mean.
No, he knew. Come on, he's not that. Is he? That's
or he simply doesn't. Or he simply didn't have. His company simply does not have the resources anymore to make that rollout system wide on the same day. Given with the staff that they have left over, and on the timeline that he's demanding.
Somebody said we can do it in the app, the iOS app, Elon. He said, okay, do it. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, and maybe he didn't think about the 30%. Maybe he's looking in at the. Then
the check showed up, and he's like, "But I had this calculation with this much money.
I thought I'd be making more.
Well,
I thought I'd be making more."
He's like that 15-year-old that gets his first check from Target, saying, "Wait a minute, what is FICA? And why did does he have 20% of my money?"
Exactly.
That's exactly it.
So obviously we've spoken more than enough about Elon and Twitter, but it is an Apple story now because. Of all the silly things he's done, declaring war on Apple is one of the silliest. If Apple were to take, I don't know. There are plenty of third-party Twitter apps on the App Store. Would they all go too?
Yeah, there are a lot of deck chairs on the Titanic. Let's fill them all.
I don't know. Plus, you can still do it on the web, regardless, right? You can even make it put it on your home screen as a Twitter app. Yeah. I
think his issue is, his really big issue is that he wants to turn this into a marketplace for a variety of different Bitcoin-like things. He wants blockchain, and he suddenly realized that because he said this. There's some quote of him talking about the fact that he thinks that Twitter could make more money on the blockchain than they will with advertising. The problem is then he suddenly realized after this little thing that Apple's going to get 30% of whatever that more money is, and now he's upset.
He kind of has a point. Apple does take their vig out of every single thing. Not always 30%, sometimes 15% on subscriptions and stuff. And they also seem to enforce it a little haphazardly. Amazon, I think, has a pass not to lose money. So I just don't. I don't want to take his side in this, but I do think he probably sees a soft spot. And he likes to poke at soft spots for sure.
The problem is he's making so many enemies so quickly. Yeah. If he pokes at that soft spot, it might actually make it a hard spot. Because he may be taking it exactly the opposite direction that Epic would like him to take it. Because if he starts, sometimes you don't want certain allies. Going. It
also says he also tweeted Apple should publish all censorship actions it has taken that affects its customers. It's true. Apple is kind of a nanny state. Has the time come where they don't have to stop us from seeing nipples? Or, that was Steve Jobs' idea. I guess do people really value Apple for that? That adult content's hard to find.
I think the argument that they have is that it's not really slowing down their business. Why would they change that? Like, why would you take the risk of making people upset when you're doing just fine without it? Like, there's just no upside.
And for those who want to see things, there's plenty of ways to see things.
Plenty of places.
Twitter, though, is notoriously laden with pornography. In fact, it's a problem because over the weekend when Chinese protests were going on, the Chinese propaganda machine spun up and managed to effectively DDoS all the cities and hashtags by putting porn on all of them. So if you were to search for a hashtag about the Chinese protests, you would find at least half of your content would be pornography. It's presumed put up there by Chinese authorities who wanted to, flood the field with garbage. Elon tweeted, "This is a battle for the future of civilizations." Oh, please. If free speech is lost, even in America, tyranny is all that lies ahead. I think, and it was right after the Apple thing. So I'm thinking, it was right after.
We're going to change Twitter to red, white, and blue. Like we have to get this, there's got to be a flag somewhere in this thing.
Honestly, how much damage is being suffered by himself as a brand and as a respected however much respect he had. I have to say that it wasn't. My respect for Elon Musk was at a very, very moderate level, because I do believe that he's very good at putting money in to companies at a point where companies could really use an influx of money. And I think that he takes a lot of credit for steering companies to greatness, or having the great ideas that really take this thing into space, literally. But now we're seeing, if he has this much time, a CEO has this much time on their hands to spend this much time inventing beefs. That person, anyone who is invested in these companies, anybody who works for these companies, anyone on the boards of these companies needs to ask themselves, what could they be doing that would actually be working to help the company?
He is being sued by shareholders of Tesla over his $56 billion a year compensation package. And I think that this is part of the ammunition is, Elon, you tweeting all this stuff. Are you paying any attention to anything else? Anyway, this isn't the Elon Musk show.
Colonel Kurtz has gone upriver.
Yeah, I would like to thank Elon Musk for giving us an Apple angle so that we could talk about this wonderful story again.
Oh,
looking forward to that Elon phone that you suddenly decided you're going to move on. Make.
But I do think that in some ways that's it was just like Donald Trump. Like, he doesn't really care if it's animosity. He just wants to get the attention, right? And so I think this is all attention getting. I mean, that seems like a 2-year-old, but that's kind of.
But the difference is that Trump doesn't have a source of income other than his personal brand.
That's a good point. Very good point.
He needs people to donate. He needs his reputation to do business deals that certainly are probably not going to work out well, but that's what he's got. So it really is in his best interest to do this sort of thing. Elon Musk, at the end of the day, he needs people to build cars for him. He needs people to build rocket motors for him. He needs customers to buy those cars and to buy those rocket motors. None of this is helping any of his businesses.
Gene Munster said, Elon is the latest chapter in a push to make App Store fees lower, and this will resurrect a topic that's been fairly quiet over the past 6 months.
Friend to the working man.
He's looking for something to grab onto because he's just flinging mud at this point, because I think the bottom line is that he's angry about Apple and the advertising part of it, because it's a large amount of their revenue. And maybe he's looking at this everything app idea and realizing that Apple's rules will stand in his way. They have their finger in that too.
Pie. Yeah.
But, he's flailing, and that's just, I agree. I looking at his other businesses, I mean, the fact is SpaceX has revolutionized access to space. It really has. And Tesla is probably single-handedly responsible for driving the rest of the car industry toward electric much faster than they would have otherwise. Yeah. However, you got to look at it now and think, and there have been some reports from people who've worked at those companies who've said, basically they built a whole structure to channel Elon's interests in very particular ways, and so that he felt like enthusiastic and fulfilled in what he was doing, while behind the scenes everybody else was basically managing way up and getting the actual details done around him. And the problem with Twitter is that that structure doesn't exist. Yep. He's just rattling around inside a big empty building, and this is what you get.
Yep. Here's Kim.com joining in. Think different, and you will be deleted. Who else but Tim Sweeney of Epic Games? He jumped piled on. Dog pile on Apple. Sweeney said Apple blocked Fortnite in response to Elon. Apple blocked Fortnite within a few hours of Epic defying their policy. Would they nuke Twitter, Spotify, Facebook, Netflix? At what point does the whole rotten structure collapse? Tim, you lost your lawsuit. Just go away. just go away.
It was a good try. It made sense.
You failed.
Didn't work out the way you wanted to. That's fine.
This is actually okay. Last thing. I promise. This is, though, exactly what Elon has been doing all along, which was, in effect, dividing a wedge, saying things that there's one group that's going to go, yeah, Elon, and another group go, ah! And I think that's Elon's overall strategy is to, and that's what Twitter, frankly, that's how Twitter made it for so long.
Yeah.
Is generating that kind of outrage. So maybe he's just following the Jack Dorsey playbook.
I think it's a great engagement strategy, and more people are talking about
Right.
Twitter and what's on Twitter than certainly since Trump was removed from the platform. But I don't see how it's a business model is the problem. Like, if there is a theory out there, and I think it's true, he didn't want to buy them. He kind of got forced into buy them, and he has a lot of people whispering into his ears about free speech and restoring all the people who got banned because they were, transphobic or racist or whatever. And, saying, no, it's good because free speech. And that's all true. But like, what is the business plan? What is the business model here? I don't think he ever had one. I think that maybe he figured he could just kind of slide in and make some pronouncements and use his Midas touch and it would all work out. And that didn't happen. And so, like, I don't know what the end game is here. Has he finally just embraced the fact that it's all about just trolling and engagement, and he's not really worried about it because he's got several dozen other billions in the bank that aren't related to the billions he spent on Twitter?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He did lose $100 billion this year, which is, it's amazing anybody had enough money to lose $100 billion and still remain.
Yeah, hate to see it.
In the richest list. Yeah. Apple, in a way, pre-responded. Tim Cook, in an interview with CBS This Morning earlier this month, was asked whether there was a risk Twitter could be removed from the App Store. But before all of this, he said Twitter would continue to be distributed, according to the New York Times, and praised its commitment to moderate abusive content. Quote, I don't think anyone wants hate speech on their platform, so I'm counting on them to continue to do that. Very moderate, Mr. Cook. The final tweet. This is from Elon. I certainly hope it does not come to that, but yes, if there is no other choice, I will make an alternative phone.
Because that's worked out for so many people.
Bravo, bravo. Even Jeff Bezos couldn't even do it, but bravo, man. Just go to town.
I am going to take on Apple, build a better iPhone so they're...
Build a better operating system. I'm sure that'll...
that's easy. He's got to know that this is absurd, and this is just to stir up the pot. It's got to be. That's all I can think.
All I'm saying is that every single week I stray farther and further away from the conclusion that he's just a quirky guy who's not used to pushback, and he's an open mouth and an open spirit. I am now starting to think that maybe he really does have some delusions here that are going, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
I'm just struggling to find some
Kanye.
sort of logic.
Is that what you're saying? He's going the Kanye route. Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, that's sad.
Only without the musical talent.
Yeah. China is the big story to some degree, and Apple's getting quite a bit of heat. I'm wondering, well, let's take a break and then we'll come back, and I'm wondering what you think. I'm going to give you time to ponder about Apple's pushing 16.1.1 on the iPhone with a special feature just for Chinese-made iPhones that turns AirDrop to everyone off after 10 minutes, right before these big Chinese protests. Is it a smoking gun or is it a coincidence? But first, I feel like this is like one of those news roundtable shows. I feel like the
question.
Yeah. Question.
I say you, Morton Kondraki.
Anyway, let's take a break. Our show today I just have to tell you about my 8 Sleep. It's brought to you today by 8 Sleep, which makes the most whizzy scientific technology. I mean, sometimes technology really hits home. In the case of 8 Sleep, it hits my bed, and it's incredible. And the more I use it, the more, and we've had this now for almost a year. The more I use it, the more I think, I don't know how I lived without it. What is 8 Sleep? It's a tech leak. We have the 8 Sleep pod, which you can get a mattress that does this too. They make a mattress. We just got the cover. It's a tech layer that fits onto your mattress, kind of like a fitted sheet would. And then you see that unit right there. That is feeding the pod, and it's liquid cooling. It dynamically cools and heats. That's what's cool about it. Each side of the bed, to maintain the optimal sleeping temperature for your sleep, for your body. With the pod, you can sleep as cool as 55 degrees. And I can tell you that's chilly. or as hot as 110 degrees. And I can tell you that's hot. What's interesting is there are times you want both. This past summer when it got really hot, like it was you hate those sweltering nights, where you're sweaty and you can't cool off. And you got the fan on and you got the windows open and there's no way to get cool. Imagine getting in bed and it's cool. It's like an air-conditioned bed. It feels so good. And then as winter comes and now it's cold out, I can turn my bed up. In fact, when I get in bed now, it's nice and toasty. I love that. It's kind of, I don't have to turn on the air conditioning or the heating. It saves me money. It just changes the temperature in the bed. But then it's more than that because they have a sleep doctor that monitors your movements, the temperature of the room, how deeply you're sleeping, and it eases you into a deeper sleep. And that's what really makes a difference. Clinical data shows that 8 Sleep users experience up to 34% more deep sleep. If you're getting a half hour more deep sleep every night, you wake up feeling great, confident. Your mind and body are moving through the restorative sleep stages, vital for physical recovery, hormone regulation, mental clarity. It's just awesome. And because each side is different, Lisa has different temperatures than I do, my wife. We both sleep comfortably. The only bad thing about the 8 Sleep is that when you stay at a hotel, which we did the other day, it's like, where's my 8 Sleep? The bed's all the same temperature. I don't like it. Give me some more blankets. It's really fantastic. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night too hot or too cold, you're going to want the 8 Sleep. It's not a holiday miracle, although it sounds like one. If better sleep is on your wish list, look no farther than the new Pod 3. They just released it. We just ordered ours. I'm very excited. For a limited time, 8 Sleep is offering all of our listeners up to $400 off the Sleep Fit Holiday Bundle. That includes the pod cover I was just telling you about, the thing that we love so very much. Go to 8sleep.com/twit to get the exclusive holiday savings. 8 Sleep currently ships in the U.S., Canada, the U.K., select countries in the EU. And I know summer's coming. It's going to be a hot one in Australia. It's starting to warm up already. You need it too, so they ship down there too. 8sleep.com/twit. And if you're listening after tomorrow, after November 30th, this is only good today and tomorrow. Use the same URL, 8sleep.com/twit, to check out the pod cover. I'm sure there will be other exclusive holiday savings. And, of course, you can always save $150 at checkout with our usual offer. But the key is that address, 8sleep.com/twit, for the best deal anytime. 8sleep, E-I-G-H-T, sleep.com/twit. Thank you, 8sleep. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for helping me get a great night's sleep. All right, on we go. China, so complicated. Our hearts go out to all the people who are so bravely standing up to President Xi, to the Chinese Communist Party, say we want freedom. It was stimulated by excessive lockdowns during COVID, but there's been more. The Foxconn plant was offering $1,400 recruitment bonuses, which they neglected to pay. People protested. They exited en masse, leading to a big slowdown in iPhone production, about a 30% production loss. They're holding up blank sheets of paper to show, censorship. And what happens, apparently, I did not know this, it's happened previously in China, is AirDrop is used. For instance, they used it in Hong Kong for Chinese nationals coming into Hong Kong. They would AirDrop them information people had not read because of censorship in China about the Hong Kong protests. So they would AirDrop them en masse to people in the trains coming in. And, of course, the Chinese authorities
How does that work? Like, I was looking at that. I was like, how do you – I don't even know how to AirDrop it to lots of people.
Well, it's the everyone thing, right? So you obviously have to do a onesie-twosie. But if you get 100 protesters, 100 activists standing in the train station, and and they see people have their AirDrop open to everyone, because it has to be open to everyone, they will just send them the protest materials. Boom, 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 boom. Apparently it was effective. I know, I'm just going by reports out of Hong Kong and now out of mainland China. Apple says we're going to turn this off for everyone, but they turn it off with 16.1.1 in China for Chinese-only phones earlier this month.
I wonder how that played out. We've talked about this briefly last week, I know, and I said at the time that I think that this is good idea because it's a good default to have a timeout period for.
It's a reasonable security thing. Yeah,
right. Because you would turn it on not because, hey, I want complete strangers on the train to be able to just drop stuff with me on my phone anonymously. You do it because you're in a group of people, you want to swap some stuff, and that's it. So it is a smart thing, but I think that with Apple's track record, we really do have to ask, is this a feature that maybe was on the back burner, maybe was suggested, maybe was on a whiteboard somewhere, hey, maybe we should do that sometime, and then there was a request that said, yeah, let's bump this up to #1 priority, basically at the request of the Chinese government. But
we don't know, and that's the problem. We don't have that smoking gun. That Apple does say it's going to come to every iPhone later in a year, sometime next year. They did not trumpet this change. They said, quote, as usual, this update includes bug fixes and security updates as recommended for all users. But it did come November 9th, exactly a week before the protests started to really break out.
I don't know.
You don't buy it?
I don't buy it. I mean, the thing is that they're not making up a new feature. It's a feature that they said that they were going to roll out. I also, the thing is this happens all the time where they pick certain regions that are probably, and they just start testing it, on those regions and so on and so forth. I don't, how would you know that thinking that the protests are going to be a week away. Maybe you somehow knew that, but
the
it's not like they're turning AirDrop.
The government
off.
Probably knew it and said to Apple, "Hey, turn that off now. We need."
I'd really have to see a smoking gun before I would. A lot of times we build. It's easy for us to build conspiracies about things that we don't know enough about, and so I'm not going to say that this is a conspiracy until we see some emails from China. I need to see something.
This is from Quartz, a picture of a bridge man who lit a fire on Beijing. Kind of the new Tiananmen tank man to draw attention to the protest banners, which read, "Go on strike at school and work, remove dictator and national traitor Xi Jinping." References to the banners were quickly censored across the Chinese internet, but photos still made their way through private channels. Vice reported Bridgeman's messages were spreading on the Shanghai subway via AirDrop. So the Chinese government surely knows that this is what's going on.
And I don't think they're turning it off. It's just that it's down to 10 minutes, right? So you can keep on opening and shutting it, right?
Yeah.
If you're sitting there, it's not like you don't have it. It's not like they just disabled it. It just means inconvenient.
Yeah, I do think it's a good feature. But the question is that a big thing is, what is your credibility? What is your track record? So when Apple, it turns out that Apple has been actually collecting private information through the App Store in a way that they didn't say that they were doing so. Apple has such a good track record on privacy that I'm willing to wonder, was this just a bug? Was this something that they really didn't intend? I'm not willing to believe, given Apple's track record, that without hard evidence that this was, hey, we intend to deceive people into thinking that this is a privacy safe place, and it is actually not. However, by the same rule, their track record with China means that I'm not going to dismiss the idea that this was done or moved up or expedited at the request of the Chinese government, given that they have a really cozy relationship with China. We've talked about it a lot. We don't have to talk about it all over again. But I have to really. I'm not saying that I believe this to be the case. I'm saying that I'm not going to be I'm going to be skeptical about it, but I'm not going to dismiss it. This is something that Apple, I think, would definitely do if they were.
Quite a coincidence. Let's just put it that way.
And also these protests has been boiling over for a couple of months now.
That's the point. Bridgeman was October 19th, or in October. So it was after Bridgeman, after trains in Shanghai, subway in Shanghai AirDrop was used. So, it was probably at that point, it doesn't seem unreasonable to think the Chinese government might have gone to Apple and say, can you suppress this? Quartz points out their app was removed from China at China's request. At the height of the 2019 protests in Hong Kong,
we don't need any thoughts about advance notice. Obviously, Beijing knows that this stuff is going to keep happening, and they probably saw it being used in a certain way and went to Apple and said, we have a problem with this, and we're going to make this we're going to make this a rule, or you're going to be out. We're going to be unhappy if you don't do this. And my guess is how it went down is that Apple said, actually this feature doesn't make sense the way it's built, and we have an idea, which is to let it only be on. We can't turn it off permanently because that doesn't make sense for our users, but what about a timeout? And we'll put that in the next version of the OS is probably how it went down. And then my guess is then China was like, how about you put it in now? And they're like, okay, we'll put it in now for China, but everybody else, we're going to test it and work on it more. And that's my guess, is that it was not about presaging anything other than knowing that inevitably something else would come up and that this would be an issue. And so probably it's something like that. It is, the weird thing is only in China right now, right? Because it does make sense actually as a feature change, but why did it get rolled out in China faster? And my guess there is that China said, we don't want you to wait. We want you to do this now.
Yeah. And it just points out how difficult it is to suppress dissent because there are other ways. Dissent is like water, and there will be other ways. Yeah, it's too bad that American companies are cooperating with the Chinese regime in this, but our government has not exactly stood up to say we support you either. It's a very delicate balancing act.
I think that China is also, they may be at their peak. Like a year or two ago.
I hope so.
No, the thing is that they're, and this comes down to, I think it's going to be a really fascinating thing to see over the next 10 years, and hopefully not horrifying, because China may come apart. It may come apart at the seams.
Could be bad.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah, could be bad.
There's a lot of groups of people that don't like each other, that they've held together with growth and force, right? And when that growth, stops, which is about what it's about to do. I mean, their overtures towards Taiwan, their issues with COVID, all those things are pushing companies out of the country. And so this isn't something that's going to happen. I mean, they're having protests right now, but the idea of putting all your eggs into a Chinese basket is over. No one's thinking that that's a possibility anymore, and everyone's thinking about how do we diversify. I mean, even Cook has said we don't think that this is an optimal situation.
No, 3 years from now, we'll be sitting here and it'll be clear that it took a while, but they moved out.
It's going to take a decade, and I don't think they're going to move out completely. But I think that they are going to get to a point. I think that everybody knows, with what we saw in Ukraine and what we're seeing in Taiwan, that everybody knows nobody wants all their eggs in that basket, and that's going to be very, very expensive for China. For them to, it's as foolish a move. The Taiwanese move is as foolish for China as Elon Musk's is towards Apple and buying Twitter. Is that they're burning themselves up for no reason, and that it's just it's a crazy thing to watch.
When I was in China in 2009 touring around, I talked to our guide who spoke English but lived in China, and I said, "Boy, I really feel like this is going to be the Chinese century. That China is doing everything right." And he said, "Oh no, you don't see the economic problems underlying all of this." Yeah. And he was right 10 years, 12, 13 years later.
Their population is so upside down. They don't have any.
Because the whole thing, one child per couple.
The one child thing was potentially the most disastrous thing that any government has ever done in the history of governments.
Well, what it really underscores is you can't centrally manage this stuff, right? It doesn't work. Every time you have a 5-year plan, we're going to produce grain here, this many tractors there, it always fails. One child only. It always fails. The zero COVID policy has been a disaster, it turns out. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but completely central control seems like a bad idea in the long run.
I mean, talking about the zero COVID thing, which has really that's what killed the Apple factories, is that policy, both in the spring for the Mac and now for the iPhone Pro. But the underlying failure there is in the Chinese healthcare system, because the truth is, without the zero COVID policy, so many people would get COVID because so many people in China still haven't been fully vaccinated.
Well, and the vaccines that they're providing are not effective.
Yeah. So that they would have a disaster, a humanitarian disaster, if they didn't have the zero COVID policy. But the zero COVID policy is causing people to be upset. But the truth is that the underlying factor is that their healthcare system and getting the vaccine out to people has completely failed. And again, you're a centralized planning nation, and for whatever reason that didn't happen. And now they're caught between civil unrest because of the policy and potentially a mass death event if they loosen the strings a little bit. So they're in a bad situation now.
Yeah, and I bring the conversation back to Apple a little bit. This really puts
please.
Well, no, well, because if I keep talking about the situation in the human rights situation in China, it's going to be a 4-hour show. But only that now we're getting video and reports of Foxconn protesters being beaten by cops, and this puts Apple in the situation where, okay, they do have to an extent, what they keep saying as their fallback excuse is true. They have to follow whatever the rules are of the countries in which they operate. But now they have the government that they are very cozy with are beating workers who are assembling their phones, who are protesting because they were promised pay that they did not receive, and they were put into hazardous situations. Apple is, I would be very, very disappointed in Apple if they let this pitch just sail right by them. They have to, this might be the moment that I've been talking about and wondering about for years now. At what point does Apple cross that line and say that, nope, we can't, we're not speculating about this anymore. We're not wondering about this anymore. We're not talking about a nuanced problem in which they're actually also helping economy and helping the workers, blah, blah, blah. If it turns out that people who protest at their factories who have legitimate beefs are being beaten and hurt and rounded up and disappeared by the government, Apple has to say something about that. Apple has to say that, no, this is not an area in which we feel as though we can ethically do business. They might not have to say it explicitly like that, but they cannot be silent. We can't let them get away with being silent.
Do you think Apple will say something in a few years when they have the capacity to make iPhones elsewhere, and then suddenly they'll wake up and say, "Oh, that was terrible. We couldn't say anything."
A lot of times that you make moves over time, not
Takes
immediately.
A while. Yeah.
And it's. I think that I think that what Apple will most likely do. I mean, it's a really uncomfortable position for Apple, and I think that what Apple will most likely do is reduce China's output for their goods down to less than 30% in the next 10 years, from almost 100. So it's going to cost China billions, but I don't think Apple's going to wave any flags while they do that. When you're trying to sneak out of the building, when you're trying to sneak out of the building with folks with swords, you don't yell at them. You just go, "I'm going to go over here for a minute," and then you're gone. So
according to Ming Chi Kuo, go ahead.
I'll just quickly. I just hope that they are as interested in protecting the lives and the safety of the people who assemble their incredibly successful product as they are about protecting their supply chain. So yeah, I agree that you're absolutely right. They're going to make sure that they're going to be minimizing production in China, possibly as a part of a legitimate being upset about human rights abuses, but that would turn out to be, oh well, gosh, it turns out that we're selling 10% fewer iPhones than we would have October, November, December because of all this unrest. We have to diversify a little bit. At some point, it's going to hurt so bad that at some point, I hope that Apple would say that, look, we want to apply pressure on the government to say we don't ever want to see, hear, or worry about our workers being beaten up for any. Okay,
well, and I don't think we. 4 hours. I don't think that we should assume that Apple's not having those conversations. I think that they're just not having them in public. There's a lot of stuff happens privately.
There's a point where you have to have these conversations in public. You have to make your statement. You can't have people wondering about what your intentions are, or whether you actually on the side of right or wrong. There's a point at which you have to give people who are protesting that courage, that strength to say that, look, we're not fortifying your oppressors. We are on your side here. We are going to try to work. We don't like this. We're making that displeasure known. We are using whatever diplomatic and commercial economic pressure we can make to correct the situation. You are not fighting in a vacuum. You are not surrounded on all sides. You have friends, and some of your friends work at Apple.
Ming Chi Kuo says that, wow, iPhone 14 Pro Max shipments alone for the holiday quarter will be 15 to 20 million units lower than expected. And of course, Apple orders is, I'm sure, pretty good at predicting demand. So that's 15 to 20 million people who would want one that aren't going to get one. Kuo has cut his shipment prediction for the iPhone lineup by about 20% for all models. 70 to 75 million units versus the market consensus of 85 to 90 million units. The average capacity, I'm quoting now from 9 to 5 Mac, which translated Kuo's note to his customers. The average capacity utilization rate of Zhengzhou iPhone plant was only about 20%. in November. 20%. It's expected to improve to 30 to 40% in November. That's a huge drop. Zhengzhou is called iPhone City because that's where most iPhones are made. Pegatron and Luxshare ICT have obtained about 10% of the Pro and Pro Max orders from Foxconn, respectively, but mass shipments will not be until late December at the earliest. So they're scrambling to find other producers. According to the production recovery progress of the iPhone 14 Pro series, shipments in December was still significantly lower than expected. He says most of the demand for the iPhone 14 Pro series will disappear because of recession and so forth. He says that as a result, and of course this is what he's an analyst, so he's talking to people who are investors. He predicts Apple's iPhone revenue in the fourth quarter of 22 may be significantly lower than the market consensus by 20 or 30%. Apple did warn that this quarter would not be good. I wonder if it's worse than they thought.
It is. They made their first warning, and then the thing happened, and they did the news release that said, we're going to be down maybe the estimate, like $6 billion, even more than they thought they were going to be.
Watch the stock market then flee Apple, which is so funny because that's just like, I get out of Apple quick. It's so silly. Might be a buying opportunity for people who like Apple, I think.
Yeah, and I think that the hard part is they make such good phones that if things get a little tight, you can go, I can just go another year or two.
That's exactly what will happen.
Really good phone.
Yes.
Like my kids have 12. And it's
fine.
It's a pretty good phone, and it's I don't I like having the new one. I'm on this show, so I like having a new phone to talk about. But I got to say, it's not significantly crazy better. Than I like the 48 meg camera.
It's quite a luxury, but
it is.
It's a nice luxury. And if you can afford it, owning the latest iPhone, it just feels. It's a terrible thing.
It is. It's great, good. But I'm just saying that the hard part you have when in a recession
to say
is
no,
that
though. I skip.
It's easy to go. Yep. I'm going to get. It's not like there's a feature that'll kill you. In the
exactly.
Wait for another year or two. Wait through the recession. So that's the hard part they're going to have.
It's both that they're so good and that, frankly, there's not a whole lot more you can improve on, right? It's just like this. These are all going to be incremental improvements from now on until we come up with the VR glasses or whatever the next thing is. That's why they're working so hard on this, right?
Or a folding phone that normal people would actually want to buy and not as a luxury item.
I really liked the Samsung Flip because it wasn't that I was unfolding a tablet. It was that I was unfolding a little pocket square that became a normal-sized phone. Yeah. If Apple made that, I would buy in a heartbeat. The only reason I don't use that is because it's an Android phone. It's a Samsung phone.
It is. It's funny. And Andy Carluccio, who we were up with, he's got one of the flip phones.
Love the Flip.
He has a Samsung folding phone. I'm not sure which one it is, but every time he opens it up, I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool.
It's like that ad where the woman says, I love my iPhone, and she keeps seeing people flip their phones, and then everywhere she sees flipping, and she says, I have to have flipping.
I don't have to, I keep on telling myself that screen's not going to last. I just keep on going, I can't, I can't get over it. So I'm just letting Andy just
They're
keep
a little more
it
delicate.
Watching it.
They're a little more delicate. I had the flip phone. I gave it to Stacey Higginbotham. I don't know if she fully appreciates it. I have to ask her. If not, I'm going to take it back. And but that was last year's. But it lasted, it lasted a year but not with always, because I still had the iPhone, so it wasn't my number one phone. I had problems with the Fold, which is the big one. The laminate peeled off and stuff. There was stuff with that. Folding screens are still not perfected, which is, I'm sure, why Apple doesn't make them.
The latest generation is really, really good, but it's still not. I agree. It's still not a mainstream thing. You have to have that combination of a lot of money to spend on a phone, a real interest in having something that's new and wonderful, and third, a very real use case for, I need a phone that also becomes sort of something like a tablet, but not quite a tablet. I'm just saying that if Apple really made an iPhone that flips out into an iPad Mini, and it was anything close to affordable, for me, that wouldn't be $1,800. That would be above $1,000 and under $1,500. That would make me have to sit back and think hard about whether I really, really want to eat meat and name brand cereals for next year.
You know, that generic cereal is very nearly as good as Captain Crunch.
And those plastic bags are so easy to pour from, you know?
It's called Captain Crinkle for a reason.
Half the money is the marketing budget. Seriously.
Just keep telling yourself that, Andy. Just keep telling yourself.
If I can have a folding iPhone, folding Mac Mini, iPad Mini, I will do it. I will eat the Happy O's cereal for a year.
I just think somebody's there with a test phone, opening, shutting, opening, shutting, opening, shutting, opening, shutting, like that. That's what they do all day to see like if this is actually.
Oh, you know they're doing that. And even at Apple, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Is it only Samsung that makes those screens? Probably, huh?
I think so. Yeah.
But that's all right.
Yeah.
Apple sources a lot of iPhone parts from Samsung. It's not the end of the world.
I think they'd make their own somewhere else.
Get Corning to do it, maybe.
And they don't make their own panels anywhere, do they?
No, they use. Most do they use now? Samsung's, I think. Yeah.
I think LG for some stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
LG,
all over
I
the
think.
place.
Yeah.
This is a sad story. I didn't put it in, but you guys, you live out there in near Hingham.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I put that in.
Unknown. So on Monday, 10:45 a.m.
This was last Monday, right? I mean, it was.
Oh yeah, you're right. It wasn't this Monday. It was November 20th, 21st. And I didn't do the story then, but it's very sad. A car crashed into the Apple Store in Hingham. One person died, 16 injured. Kevin Bradley, 65 of New Jersey, was the guy who died. There's some question about, though, whether it was intentional.
The investigation is ongoing. The person who crashed into the store claims that it was a runaway or basically a stuck accelerator, he tried to stomp on the brakes, but he couldn't. But nothing happened. He got drug and alcohol test was clear. He certainly hasn't said anything about how he claims it's an absolute accident, and so for now it does seem to be just the store is in one of those sort of park malls that started.
Yeah, I mean it's not like the road ends at the storefront. You'd have to turn into it.
Yeah, so again, maybe he got the pedals mixed up or something like that. That's not unheard of. But yeah, I mean, 16 to 20 people. 16, I think it was full. It
was a full store.
Yeah,
imagine
it was a full store. I did put it in as an update because I thought I was really, really impressed and pleased with this. But Tim Cook made a special trip out to the store to basically, talk to people about what had happened and make sure the employees are okay.
I think that's appropriate. I'm really glad he did
exactly.
that. Yeah.
I mean, that's not something that all CEOs will do, because as a good CEO, his or her time is so valuable down to the 5 minutes. And the fact that he put time on his schedule to fly out here and spend a day here, I think that's a very, very human and healing thing for him to do, and that's the Apple that I have faith in.
There's a GoFundMe fundraiser for Kevin Bradley, who was the man who died very sadly. Was he an employee or is he just visiting?
He was he was a contractor who was doing some part of a company that was doing some work on the store. And so he wasn't. Some early reports claimed that he was an Apple employee, but no. But he was there in a professional capacity.
You can search on GoFundMe for Kevin Bradley and Hingham, and I think you'd find it pretty quickly.
My guess is that knowing Apple, that within 1 to 2 years, any Apple store that would have it's anywhere near a road will have some kind of barrier in front of them, it'll look really well designed. Sorry. And you'll be able to but it'll be things that are hard enough to stop cars. Like they tend to make those adjustments.
Yeah. Easy to fix. Probably not easy, but fixable, I guess.
And as a matter of fact, I think the town government was actually moving towards that, about having some sort of a rule about having bollards in front of stores exactly like that. And there were a couple of articles about, hey, Jesus, if this had passed like a year earlier or had been in effect right now, this wouldn't have happened.
It is being investigated there is a criminal investigation. He has been charged. The driver has been charged. As you said, he said his foot stuck, but that's pretty easily provable. if there's a problem with the accelerator. So he's charged with reckless homicide.
Yeah. I hope there's a very thorough investigation, but this is the sort of thing that is absolutely frustrating to try to figure out, because there are so many cases of the person had their foot down on the gas, their foot slipped, or because of a wrinkle in the floor mat, or just bad design, bad shapes of these pedals. It's easier to get the two mixed up, and because he thinks he's got his foot on the brake, he just stamps it down harder, because oh my god, I need to brake, it's a runaway, and he gets in a state of panic. He doesn't stop, assess, and think, what if I'm putting my foot down on the wrong thing? Right. I'm not saying that's what happened, but there are a lot of things that have to be considered. At least we've ruled out that it doesn't seem to wasn't drug or alcohol related.
Right.
If if it were an act of deliberate violence, you think that he would have made such a statement or such an indication. He has not done as yet.
That's true.
So
good point.
Investigations.
It's happened here twice in last couple of years on our main street. That's a driver has plowed into a storefront. So maybe it's more. And again, it's the same situation where you'd have to turn hard right, maybe, and then do it. But in both cases, it was an accident. So I guess it does happen, and it is devastating when it happens. I mean, it just destroys the place, and if there's anybody in there, it's a bad place to be.
Also, it makes it into a traumatic space for people who have to go back and work there, who probably can't afford to just simply quit this job. So that's why I thought that was a very, very human thing for Tim Cook to do. I was very, very pleased and proud of him for doing that.
Let's take a quick break. More to come with our wonderful panel: Andy Anako, Jason Snell, Alex Lindsay. And while you're watching, I hope you'll enjoy. Now, John Ashley, this is your opportunity to show off our new tech TriCaster 2 Elite. Our show today brought to you by the TriCaster 2 Elite, the most complete live production system on the planet. We use the TriCaster 2 Elite, right? We use about 1/80th of the complete capabilities. I mean, just a tiny, tiny amount. This thing is kind of mind-boggling. They pushed out an update late last year that made it even more powerful. Now, new tech, we've used TriCasters since day one. New tech, literally since we started doing video, I shopped around, looked at all the different ways of doing it. TriCaster was the most affordable, most flexible way to get what we do done, and we've used TriCasters ever since. There's a full line. And no matter which you select, TriCaster puts an entire suite of media production capabilities at your fingertips. The TriCaster 2 Elite, our little baby, is more than a live video production system. It's an all-encompassing digital media solution you can use to create content for the internet, mobile, TV. In most cases, it's better than the broadcast system television stations are using. I see them in schools and churches. I see them everywhere. The much-loved Live Call Connect feature now supports, with this update that just came out, a year ago now, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, FaceTime. So you can use those as live inputs to any production. In addition, selectable audio and video return enables TriCaster 2 Elite operators to view an audio return like any other output, allowing greater flexibility. There's a new neural voice isolation tool that cleans audio, using AI, canceling or reducing background noise, automatically detecting voices, maintaining all important production quality. We're kind of a very static setup, but a lot of people are using TriCasters in evolving situations, in new situations, in churches and stuff. And it's great to have all of these capabilities to make your production that much better, no matter what happens. Increased power and flexibility and simplicity have driven some of the exciting new capabilities with variable support in macro. This, by the way, I know they use for me because I switch my own stuff in my office, and they've got it all down to macros because they don't trust me. So I just push this button, Leo. Oh, it works. The system, thanks to these macros, offers a dynamic and powerful tool. You can nest macros now to deliver complex productions more easily. We actually have set it up so that we could actually even use this. I can use a Stream Deck, so they've got macros attached to Stream Deck, Elgato Stream Deck buttons, so I can control a TriCaster through the Stream Deck. It is so flexible. TriCaster 2 Elite now supports encoding 3 channels in anything from HD to UHD at the same time. That's a lot more power, A lot more flexibility. They've got the live panel builder now, which was a standalone. It's now in the TriCaster, which means you can create bespoke user interfaces, customize each preset within the user interface, so your distributed workflows are simpler, more cohesive, never compromising on quality. I mean, I can go on and on. They've got the NDI Genlock tool, which is fantastic. You've got a common sync pulse, so all the users can know exactly when to send a frame of video. Perfect for remote workflows. Operators can now send alpha channel through one of the mix outs, bringing post-production closer to live. Users can use the keying on TriCaster. We don't use it, but man, you can feed we use it a little bit sometimes to feed graphics, real-time 3D creation tools. You'll probably see when we do our holiday stuff, the little Leo elf on the shelf swinging my legs. We'll use that. That's TriCaster lets us do that. It's really a cool effect. Since its arrival in 2020, TriCaster 2 Elite has offered an incredibly powerful live production system. We love it. The very latest updates put even more power into the hands of storytellers everywhere. Really, it's more than we need, but we're really glad to have the TriCaster 2 Elite. It's transformative. It's setting new standards. It's better than broadcast. You might also look at the TriCaster 1 Pro. That's also evolved incredibly to support modern storytelling for producers and content creators and publishers with future-ready capabilities. It's a streamlined live video production system. Got the Live Call Connect, 4K UHD switching support, live streaming recording, data-driven. It really, I have to say, over the years, we've used TriCaster now for 15 years, just gets better and better and better and better. Explore the latest in the TriCaster family. Go to NewTek. Their website, NEWTEK, this is the URL to get you right there, go.newtek.com/twit-tv. That's where you'll find an interactive guide that lets you choose which TriCaster is right for you. So there's a whole line of TriCasters at differing prices. Everybody should have a TriCaster. Go.newtek.com/twit-tv. And NewTek is NEWTEK. We love NewTek. We love the TriCaster. We're so grateful to have it. Go.newtek.com/twit-tv. It's really the kind of the central tool in our technology toolbox that makes everything we do possible. Thank you, NewTek. The Oceanic Plus app is out. Who's going diving? Put it on your Ultra.
Not it. Not it.
Not it.
Now I want to. I want to test it. I want to see what's going on.
Remember when they announced the Apple Watch Ultra, they said, "And coming soon, Oceanic Plus." Well, it's out now.
Excellent.
I wish I could test it. It's a dive computer on your wrist. I mean, it's not like, okay, maybe there's more professional, but it does all the things that you need to know: depth, NO decompression time, water temperature. You don't need to use a touch screen. You could set compass headings using the action button.
If you have an Ultra, you kind of feel like you have to.
I feel like I should
install it.
I should just dive. When I did set it up, I mentioned this, that it does ask you, would you like to know water depth and temperature? Should you fall into the water, I guess? And I said yes. But it would be actually by an accident. I should probably also have a button that says, and then should we call the authorities?
This was unintentional.
The funny thing is, I always had this picture of my pool being 9 feet deep, and then I went down to the bottom with the watch, and it popped up, and it showed me that I was 6.9 feet deep.
Oh, that's so cool.
I was like, the watch is off.
That's so cool.
I was like, the watch is off. I was like, the watch isn't very accurate because this is 9 feet deep and it says 6.9, 6 and 9 inches or whatever. And then I measured it and the watch was right.
The watch was right.
Like, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Basic Oceanic Plus functionality is free, but you'll want to pay $10 a month or $80 a year if you want to track decompression. I always worry about the bends when I'm swimming. So yeah, location planning, other more advanced features. There's a family plan, $129, 5 people. You do have to have watch OS 9.1, as well as an iPhone 8 or later using iOS 16.1. And of course, you need an Ultra. Apple is quick to caution that Oceanic Plus is not for professional scuba divers. For instance, I won't tell you how much air you got.
How many professional scuba divers are?
Does not support transmitters that connect to your tank.
Although there was a piece, there was a great piece on TechCrunch about this by a scuba diver, and they they said it was really great, by the way, and that makers of dedicated dive computers should worry because this feels like one of those things that's just going to get subsumed into technology like Apple Watch. But what they said is they went apparently on a like scuba thing that was kind of a demo that included people from Apple and from the dive computer software company and all of that. And they suggested that the oxygen monitoring thing, like they got the distinct impression, even though nobody would say something on the record, that they are working on a solution for that too. It's just not out there. So it seems like that was just not something that they had ready, but that they're working on that too. So it's interesting. I'm not a scuba diver, but it sounds like this is one of those things like the TechCrunch article likened it to standalone GPS devices, where like we used to have those, and now we don't really because everything's got a GPS in it, and that for dive computers for divers and snorkelers and everything else that's all going to get put in our watches instead.
Yeah. There's a scuba diver observing the target 30-minute dive time alarm has been reached.
Yeah, it's a really great piece. It's akin to those like talking to a backcountry hiker about those other features. They got a bunch of divers who and this is the person to listen to, right? Like they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, not us. There's a dive computer, the Sunto Zoop. That's a big old thing. Yeah.
You want big letters, especially when it's tilting up, I think.
Yeah.
This is definitely a product where you appreciate, like Jason says, people like us who I have a grand total of like 52 minutes of dive time. I should not be reviewing something like this. It's the person who has at some point, almost said, has gone to the back of the surface of the water saying, wow, I almost killed myself down there. I'm not going to do that again. Those are the people with the knowledge that should be reviewing this stuff. Seriously.
Apple claims the watch Ultra is EN 13319 compliant, the European standard covering functional safety and testing for depth and time measuring devices. So you can trust it to measure your pool depth, Alex.
See, there you go.
See? Oceanic Plus is from Huish Outdoors. They make other scuba stuff. So pretty cool.
So a lot of retired pool installers are about to get a lot of crap from a lot of people who have money for $1,000 watch. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I've gone scuba diving twice, kind of recreationally. Once on the Great Barrier Reef, and once in Hawaii just for fun. It would be nice to. I mean, obviously, I went with a dive instructor who's got probably a Zoop,
right?
And they're paying attention. They only let me down there for 15 minutes anyway, but. Still, I would kind of be fun to have that. Oh yeah, no, that's all right. I got mine. No problem.
Yeah, especially since the gear is so expensive.
Yeah,
and like the idea of certainly for a novice diver who's like, okay, now you need a dive computer and a dive watch. Like, or you can get this really cool, amazing Apple Watch, the best that they make, the most expensive Apple Watch they make, and you can wear it all the time. And people would say, wow, are you a diver? And you can say, why, yes, I am a diver. You see, that's why I have this expensive dive watch.
Yeah.
And then maybe as you get more experience, you're like, yeah, I need more not going to kill myself features than an app that runs on a phone.
I feel like over the next year, you have to take, if you have the Ultra, you do have to take pictures. You have to somehow take little pictures of your watch underneath the water, your watch at the mountains, your watch in the desert. Like, I'm actually doing something with this watch that made it worth buying it.
Yeah. But also now that it's been shipping to so many people, I love seeing so many pictures from people who are like, no, I'm not a mountaineer. I'm in construction. I am actually like moving rocks, like 12 hours a day, and this is the only thing. And this is the first watch. This is my first opportunity to have like a real, like digital, real wearable computer, because all the other ones are not going to survive this, and this has survived fine. If anything, it's got character. It's got good, honest wear now.
So when Rob McElhenney and Deadpool bought Wrexham, how much did they pay? Do we know, to buy their own little personal football club? I'm guessing they didn't pay $7 billion, but that's the asking price for Man United. Man U.
£2 million for Wrexham.
See, Wrexham's a lot cheaper.
Why? Well, they are 4 levels down, right, in the National League.
It's the happy O's of the Premier League.
Honestly, the rights to the cable series probably paid for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just absolutely. Apple is currently not planning to purchase Man U. Congratulations. There's the story.
Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
Still dead.
British tabloid The Daily Star claimed that Apple had expressed an interest in the $7 billion purchase. But according,
If I were trying to sell Man United, I would definitely spread that rumor.
Yeah.
According to Joe Rossignol, writing for Mac Rumors, our source with direct knowledge of the situation says the report is false.
Yes.
However, the Glacier family is planning to sell it.
Yeah.
So,
now we've all spread that information.
and Cristiano
that's
Ronaldo
on
is
the
leaving, so I think that should cut the price a little bit.
Yeah.
Why would Apple want to own a club? They wouldn't.
They wouldn't,
exactly.
because what they want are the rights, and the individual club doesn't really hold the rights there.
Right.
It's not a business that they are particularly in. So, would they want to buy a league or something? Maybe could they just buy the NFL?
Just buy the whole league.
Just buy it. But an individual team like this doesn't really make any sense.
They are battling ESPN, according to Apple Insider, for the rights to stream the Dutch Soccer League. Mm-hmm. Is that a big one? Is that a big league? Is that a good one?
It's available, Leo. The rights are available. Okay.
ESPN
Apple's going to corner the market on soccer. They're just starting.
Actually,
starting at the edges.
It's not a bad strategy, right? Like they get MLS over here, they get the Dutch league over here. They pick up some smaller leagues that are a little bit cheaper, and then they sort of build a home for soccer in their streaming app, and they just kind of build it up from there. It's not a terrible idea.
And there's a lot of efficiencies in doing it in multiple places, because especially if they're going to use new technology to do it, doing it for one league is one thing, but doing it for more and more leagues, you're going to use the same central technology for a lot of different ones. So I could see them definitely trying to expand.
I have to say, and I know, Jason, you're a soccer/football fan.
Both.
So I'm going to let you answer this question. I watched as England and the United States battled for an hour and a half to nothing.
That's true. 0-0 draw.
To
Yeah.
the most boring game I've ever seen.
Was not boring. It was very exciting. Actually,
it was a very exciting game.
But scoring is not scoring. In soccer, most of the exciting things despite everything, do not lead to scoring. And then sometimes they score, and then they say, no, actually, a thing you couldn't see means that they didn't score. There's a lot of that.
This
too.
is the kind of excitement Jason's talking about. He's getting close. He's getting close. Oh, he missed.
Well,
He's getting close. He's getting close. Oh, he missed.
I shout more at soccer than I do at football, American football. But yes, the American football, it's like, touchdown. And in soccer, it's like, oh, no, he didn't get it.
No, never mind. A lot of highs and lows.
Do something.
And they're like,
this ticket cost me $130.
Let me
Even pretend to be hurt. I don't care.
I will drop this knowledge on you. The Dutch league seems so totally obscure. It is the 6th highest ranked in terms of quality soccer league in the world.
Okay.
Way more than Major League Soccer, which ranks 15th. So it would be a step up for Apple, and there is an international audience for that, right?
See, here in America,
it's not just in the Netherlands.
We think, this little Dutch thing compared to MLS, it's bigger than MLS by far. ESPN says 1.2 million people subscribe to the matches. They expect that the price will be 150 to 200 million euros next year. So there is a market for this. And even in the U.S.
And the players are so international that you're going to get appeal because they're going to be players from lots of different countries playing in the Dutch league, which means
that's another
that'll
thing.
be watched around the world.
It seemed like at least a third of the players on the American team were actually played for English soccer teams. So it's like, what, I don't understand what makes them an American soccer team.
They play for English soccer teams because they're from America, but that's the number one. That's the goal. The English league is the number one league in the world. If you can make it there, you are among the best in the world. And so that's why you sort of start in MLS, and then it's still the case that eventually you graduate to the Bundesliga in Germany or Serie A in Italy or the Premier League in England, which is really number one.
So. And it also seemed like half the team wasn't American. Nationality
is weird, right? Like there's the one American player has an American parent and an English parent, but grew up in England. And the fact is, he gets more playing time in America than he would have on the English team. So he chose to do that. It's kind of like the Olympics, right? Where there is
Cinderella story.
your nationality can be flexible A lot of people's nationality is flexible.
And
for a long
I know
time,
we can
hockey-
diss
and for a long time,
soccer
hockey
right
was-
now because anybody who cares is not watching this show. So,
Leo, I'm not watching the show. I got the hockey. I got the soccer right here. Right. I'm not going to show it.
I had a feeling.
Down, but
I had a feeling.
I got it. It's right here.
I had a feeling.
But but I would say as hockey, there's a lot of Canadians in the hockey in the American teams and in the NHL.
true.
It's a lot of long.
He's getting close. He's getting close. Oh.
Well, so that's the funny thing about Americans talking about soccer is that we're so used to the leagues in our country being the best in the world, and it's just not the case for soccer.
even
And
close.
so,
Where do we rank?
But it
18th,
is
you said?
like I said, 15th best, strongest league in the world. But
That's
it
pathetic.
is. Which is below the second league in England, by the way, the championship. That's the next one down. But it is an international sport, and Apple's strategy, which is why I think this is very interesting. Apple's strategy, this is why they're having problems with the NFL, right? Because the NFL wants to do like U.S. rights that are very limited, and Apple really likes the idea of rolling this out everywhere. MLS is going to be available everywhere, and if they make this deal with the Dutch League will be available worldwide. And so if you're a fan in Indonesia who has an Indonesian player playing in the Dutch League, you're going to be able to watch his games because Apple's going to put it on everywhere with multiple languages and the whole thing. Like they're going to be able to do that, and that is better than a league that only has appeal in one little place.
And I'm going to again show my provincialism by saying it feels like after watching the U.S.-England game, there is a lot Apple could do to make that a better television show. For instance, most of the game is shot at distance from one side. They never show it from the other side of the pitch. Why is that? That's weird.
That's actually pretty common. The problem really is if you start putting cameras on the other side of the field. Now we even do most of that.
Cross the line problem, right?
You cross the line, and so it gets confusing.
Oh, yeah. You always have to know we're going left to right.
Do you remember the reverse angle
Yeah,
replay that they used to have? That was they had to actually call it. They had to brand in the NFL the reverse angle replay because it was like they're not going the other way, people.
Right.
They're not going the other way.
All right, I get it. That makes sense. And they can't do a lot of close-up shots because so much is happening so fast. They tend to stay on the wide shot. Whereas in American football, it feels like in football TV, there's a lot of up close and personal stuff. I don't know.
They do some of that. It's just it's so much more chaotic, football in the rest of the world is got so much. It's like hockey in the sense that in basketball that it doesn't really stop, it doesn't really slow down, and it's moving around the field so much. The big thing that makes American football is they stop every play and they wait for 30
for
seconds.
advertising.
Well, but it's also perfect for
and
cameras.
replays
and context.
All that stuff. And you can't do that. You can't do that.
American football is not as popular as football around the world, but it's much more of a TV game than soccer is. Other football?
I have to admit, 4 years ago, I watched the World Cup with great interest. I'm a little less interested this time because of Qatar, but I thought, this is gonna take over the U.S. And now Ted Lasso, this is going to take over the U.S. and we are resistant.
There's not enough bars that serve yards of beer. I really think that's. I mean, I got to tell you, I watched FIFA 1 year.
We need to start singing at games more, right? That's what we need to do.
I watched some matches of FIFA in like 2005 or something in Zimbabwe at a bar drinking yards of beer, and I got to tell you, it was great. It was really fun. Like it was just a really great experience, even better than going to a Steeler bar, which is a small.
Is it just a matter of not enough drinking, but also
not enough drinking, not enough yelling, not enough
knowledge of the game too, Jason? Like we didn't grow up with it, right?
It is something that you have to. I mean, when I started watching soccer, it's like I don't even know what I'm looking at here, and only now am I even vaguely aware. I always say I'm like a fake American fake soccer fan, but I understand it more now, and I see the appeal of it, and I think it is a lot of fun. But
I know the rules. I played soccer in high school. I mean, I know the rules. I know
it is
my problem is it's offsides. I'm always like, I don't understand.
Well, I mean, although there's a piece actually. There's a piece I linked to. 538 did a piece this week about the ball that our tech, if anybody is still there, while we're talking about sports, that our tech nerd fans will like. The ball has ultra wideband in it. It's got an accelerometer in it. Every single ball being used in the World Cup, and they have also like Hawkeye technology where they've got the cameras mounted everywhere, so they've got a instantaneous 3D view of the players and where they are on the field, and they know up to like 500 hertz, like a 500 times a second. They know where the ball is with precise positioning. They've got little ultra wideband.
Was somewhat controversial, right? Because the computers were going to make offsides calls.
Yeah, and that has been the case. In fact, during our recording in the U.S.-Iran game, the U.S. had a goal disallowed, and they actually showed they had a goal disallowed, so it doesn't count and it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
But they showed the offside call, and they actually were able to put up a 3D representation of the player and the plane that he's broken in order to be offside, and they know all of that because of this tech. So they are making some very interesting strides to make the offside call at least a little more understandable. But as we know, as Americans, adding instant replay and technology to baseball or basketball or football does not reduce the frustration level at all.
Yeah.
Even if it gets the calls better.
And one of the interesting things with streaming that's going to happen with Apple is that it's much easier to build many different versions of the commentary. So you can do different languages, but in HLS, you can have another selector that just said, the beginner version of the show, the advanced version of the show, the super nerdy version of the show.
I just want the Latin American announcers to do it in English because they're the most interesting. Yeah. And I just love how they're so excited.
It would be fun to. I know that they did it in Mexico City. They did it with the.
Wasn't that great?
Game.
During the NFL game in Mexico City, they had the ESPN Deport guy come out and call a touchdown. It was a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Touchdown!
I have heard from a lot of people who, especially if you have any Spanish at all, interestingly, Fox has the English language rights in America to the World Cup, but Peacock and in Telemundo have the Spanish language rights. And basically what I've heard is if you know a lick of Spanish, you should watch it on Peacock or Telemundo because it's a much better broadcast than the Fox broadcast. Yeah.
So Apple's kind of betting. I think Apple's betting that soccer is going to become a peer sport with the NFL. Yes,
in America,
in NBA,
peer. It's growing fast. It's cheap now, and it is very popular internationally. And they want to have global reach.
There's a lot of school programs. I mean, almost every kid, especially girls, grow up now playing soccer. It's very, very popular.
Well, I mean, the as a parent, I can tell you that there was absolutely no pressure for my son. My son is becoming a lineman. Like, he's taller than I am now.
He's a big guy. He's a big guy.
Yeah. And the first thing
are you going to let him play
is
Pop Warner though?
Nope.
No, it's dangerous.
No. like there's no pressure on him. In fact, I don't know.
Henry played Pop Warner for a year, and it was the scariest year of my life. It was terrifying.
You know,
these kids play hard, and people get injured bad.
I didn't even play Pop Warner, and I don't know. I felt like I had a concussion probably almost every week.
Yeah.
You know, I had all the colors of all the other teams across the front of my.
But soccer, I mean, it looks like it's dangerous. These guys are throwing themselves on the ground all the time. Looks like they're in pain.
That was acting. You do have to take acting classes to be really good at soccer. That is a thing.
That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part.
So that ruins it, honestly. Americans look at that and go, that's not an injury. They're not injured. They're running around. They kicked somebody. Big deal. I want to see a concussion.
He touched me. Arg. My leg.
I think that hurts.
I said that until I was like, all these are don't make any sense, until I was playing soccer with someone. I'm not very good, but I was playing and we hit our shins together.
Yeah, it hurts.
A lot. Like I felt very wimpy really quickly because that was like,
it does
super
hurt.
Painful.
Yeah.
Well, as we sat here, one of the stars of the U.S. team got it right between the legs. So sometimes the injuries are real. Sometimes.
That one
mostly
I believe.
Not though. Mostly they're taking dives.
The injuries happen when the ref is not looking. Those are some remarkable pieces of video and photographic evidence of, oh my God, he actually had the guts to. That is an arrestable offense what that person did. And then
that's with all of those sports.
To keep on running with the cold dead eyes of a shark, as though he has not just simply
I didn't do anything. What do you mean?
Life altering.
I didn't do it.
Guess what? No children for that player for the next.
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
All right. So I want soccer to become a popular sport. I really do.
Well, and again, what it allows Apple to do is prove what they can do and they have it for a long period of time, so they can invest over a long period of time, which is what Apple likes to do. And they're going to be able to, over time, as these contracts come up again, because people are going to sign contracts right now, and Apple's going to fight for each one of these contracts. Yeah. And they're going to have something they can point to. Like, I know we haven't done broadcast before, but look at
they've got MLS for a whole decade.
And And in 2 or 3 years into the future, I think that within 3 years, it's going to be 120 frame per second, 4K, HDR with, immersive sound. And it's going, because Apple can do that. They can build that production pipeline, and everyone else is going to have a really hard time competing with that pipeline. And even if they do compete with it, it only means that the Apple TV will be more utilized. So it doesn't. So Apple wins no matter how it turns out. So.
Why is England so good, Jason?
Why are they so good? I mean, it's in their it's in their history, and they're good at soccer in general, and then they also have the money.
Because I felt like Latin America is bigger in Latin America, like Pele in Brazil and.
Sure. I mean, I think Europe is very strong, and South America is very, very strong at soccer and turning out the players. The money is in Europe, and so
Right.
England, Italy, Spain,
Big
Germany
money.
is where the best players all around the world end up playing.
Right. Big money. It's amazing.
Huge money, yeah. And there are some great teams in some great teams in France too. Like there are a lot of great teams in Europe, and they have the money to spend, and so that ends up being where they're going. But yeah, in terms of the grassroots, there are a lot of great players in South America and Africa and Europe, and gradually from North and Central America.
All right, I'll let you get back to the game. Meanwhile,
It's a nail biter here,
over.
Leo.
it is a nail biter, isn't it? You're watching it too, Alex?
I just see the
cow.
stats.
Holy
I saw. I opened it up while we. In my defense, I opened it up while we started talking, so I could see
Only
are
watch
they
it for the
still
stats.
playing? How many minutes are in a soccer game? See, I don't even know. I'm
90
plus
plus
some random
extra
amount that they
stoppage
add.
time, a random
We're now
stoppage
going to add
time.
another 6
stoppage
minutes.
time. Again, I'm an awful American here to say, could you wire up the referee's stopwatch to the scoreboard so that we could see the time that was the real time? And the answer is no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
Also,
Okay.
I want to hear the referees talk. That's one good thing about football. They did that many years ago. They started miking up the referees. I like to hear what the penalty was. What did you do wrong?
I enjoy when those referees talk to. They're like, "Now, boys, I know that you just smashed into each other, but you need to
I
stop
want to
it
hear
now.
that. I want to hear
Cut
that.
it out."
Is there only one guy referee on the field running around?
Yeah,
That's another
One guy.
problem, I think.
we can fix this. Americans can fix.
We can
soccer.
fix this. We can fix
Yeah.
this.
Good luck
Yes.
to us.
And I just want to see the bench. I don't understand. Why don't they show the bench? I want to see the bench. Put the bench on the other side. If you only want to shoot from one side, I want to see the coach. We never see the coach tearing his hair out, throwing
we
his
see him.
surface once
We
in a
do.
very rarely.
That does happen. Yeah. You just got to have a photogenic coach. They do that in Premier League all the time.
Do they? Okay.
You're looking for the style and panache of soccer's Bill Belichick on the sideline.
Yeah, I want to see a guy with his sleeves cut off on his
ratty Man United hoodie sweatshirt.
Yeah. Apple has lost. Well, they're settling anyway. The butterfly keyboard lawsuit. You'll be happy to know, Andrew. The judge, a California federal judge, has approved Apple's plan to pay $50 million. So that means you might get a bag of pop chips.
You
I
get
don't
a
know.
dollar.
Yeah.
You get a dollar.
$13.6 million in attorney fees, $2 million in litigation costs, $1.4 million in settlement administration. Do the math. There's a goodly amount left, about $30 million to distribute to all of us who suffered the butterfly key. They initially agreed to the settlement about halfway through the year, but they were waiting for approval from the judge. So, believe it or not, awards to customers from the settlement will be based on the number of repairs required. How many times did you have to bring it in, Andy? Amounts of up to $395 for those who had 2 or more top case replacements.
Yeah, because remember, this wasn't just people like me complaining about how it was untypable, like with
Wasn't
one
just 'cause
half
you
of a
didn't
millimeter
like it.
throw.
Yeah.
It was because when dust got in there, that thing was going to break, and Apple was not very, very forthcoming about how, and because of the way these things are built, it's like, oh well, gosh, there's a bee's eyelash underneath your letter A key. That's going to cost $890 for an entire lowercase battery trackpad replacement. Like, no, that's a crappy keyboard.
Yeah.
People having to basically get, well, all we can do for you is give you the same crappy a new version, an unbroken version of the exact same crappy keyboard. It's going to happen again. So you like to have, you want people, I'm glad enough that Apple reversed their decision on this keyboard, but there's a certain satisfaction for consumers that, now there's a legal document that says that, this was terrible. We knew it was terrible and we had to stick with it, and people pay the price.
All right. We know that it's the final minutes of the game.
You've got my fully complete attention, Leo.
So that you can watch the end.
That's why we podcast, right? So people can listen to it later.
John's also watching. John Ashley, you're also watching it.
Well, I can't help it when you're watching it at the same time.
I'm not. What, me who me?
Oh, I mean, you have it on your screen. I'm not going to
Picture in picture, baby.
I'm watching it right now because you're watching it. So
ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have you know that I have been on This Week in Tech, even though a major candlepin bowling tournament was on at the same time. I TiVo'd that. Okay.
Do people people don't roll candlepin anywhere but Rhode Island, right?
No, it's still full on New England thing. It's
New England, yeah.
That's why if Apple, if you want to round up to the nearest $10,000 after you buy the soccer league, you could probably buy New England Candlepin Bowling League. This used to be a really big TV show every Saturday morning. Candlepins for cash, the high-low jackpot. Four Horsemen left side.
Kev Brewer is telling me the reason Man United is so expensive is it was bought by Americans who leveraged it with huge debt. Oh, great.
Well, we
ruin everything. Who are you? What do they call it? A supporter? Who do you support, Jason? Are you?
Well, it's Arsenal, which you'll love this, Leah. One of their big chants is 1-0 to the Arsenal. That's the dream. 1-0.
They just want to win.
The dream.
The slimmest margin Arsenal possible. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. We can get one goal, and I hope it's us. That's it.
Jason, is there a slaughter rule? And is it if you're ahead by 2 goals, we're just going to call it. Let's let this other team leave with the pitch with their dignity.
There was a World Cup match that was just 7-0 the other day. Wow. It's because goal differential is a thing. Actually, one of the tiebreakers in soccer is your goal differential. So if you can pour it on the other team, you do it. It doesn't ever happen. I mean, it happens rarely, but you do get occasionally. You'll get those 6-2s where they snuck in a couple at the end just for kicks. Nice. I mean, literally kicks.
And by the way, Apple is not buying Walt Disney, so stop thinking stop thinking that.
That was another really funny, crazy rumor. It's what the hell?
Well, Alex has been lobbying for this for years.
I don't think they should now, but I think they should have a while ago. Then. I think that it would have been there was a lot of good reasons for Apple to do it in the past. Right. I think that Disney's too large and too unmanageable at this point. I mean, I don't think it's nearly the investment it was 5 years ago.
And I know I cannot show the game, but I can show a picture of soccer balls being charged up.
There you go.
Before this sport.
That's the ultra wideband chips. Yeah. It's awesome. Actually, you talk about the NFL. That's going to be a big thing for the NFL because that is remember a sport where the placement of a ball across an imaginary invisible plane is relevant in the rules, and they just have to be it probably broke the plane, sure. And now they'll know they will be able to put those in the ball, and they'll know it broke the plane. Yeah.
And when they have sensors in the knee pads, you'll know when the knees hit as well as when the ball hit.
Yes, you will.
There'll be a lot of data there. It's going to happen. But the ball is. The ball is really hard because it actually is really flexible, one of the things that I ran into a developer at WWDC a couple of years ago. They work on putting sensors in into the basketballs, and they're either, it's not in the pro league yet, but they're definitely, and the real challenge is it can't change the weight. It can't change the balance. It can't change. And it's really complex.
In the months rolling up to the World Cup, they actually did a blind test. They took a bunch of soccer players and they played with both balls, and nobody could tell the difference. So that was like the big final test was if it's not the same ball, you can't do it. It has to feel exactly like the same ball that you were in there before.
And the problem is though, with football, there's so much throwing that getting that just right, I mean, it's really minor. A very very minor change. Problem. Yeah, it's really really complicated.
I do think the best sport played on grass anywhere is Australian rules football. I wish that would
great.
suddenly take over. That I would watch.
I used to watch. I used to work for Prime Sports Network, and that was one of their specialties, was taking all these, these
Obscure
sports that weren't in the United States and then redistributing them to the United States. So I got to just watch a lot of. Watching Australian rules football. It's just amazing.
It's insane.
I was just like, these are the guys that are the most, just crazy. Like I was like, huge. I'll never.
It's a bunch of good-looking buff guys in short shorts. Mauling each other. It's just
it
is so rough.
I was going to say my college football team is University of California, and they have a punter. He's a senior. They have a punter who is an Australian rules football player who is part of an NFL program where they identify Aussie rules players and bring them to America. And he got in the news after the Stanford game, after the UCLA game last week, because he had a punt where they were coming in to block it, and he basically did his Aussie rules thing and ran to the side and then kicked it with his other foot. And people are like, "Oh, you can do that?" And the answer is, well, yeah. Aussie rules football players have to do that.
Thing is, the best part of a punter that an Aussie rules football player that's a punter is that he's half punter, half cornerback.
He can run.
If you get past the offense, he's going to take you down. It's going to hurt a lot more than everybody else on the field.
I had a Twitter exchange with the sports editor of the San Francisco Chronicle where I said, I think this is a Moneyball situation where maybe the NFL needs to look at Aussie rules punters because I think it could change that entire thing. And her response was, yeah, I think so too. After seeing that.
Well, I think it was like in Samoa that you had a 60 times per capita, you had a 60 times better advantage of becoming a pro football player than because they just mined it, for people because it had to do with size, but it also had to do with the fact that they don't have any equipment, so they're playing on basically like bare fields with no gear, and they come over here a little rougher.
It's a great sport. Great sport.
My favorite moments in sports is when somebody does something so weird and so successful that immediately everyone's flipping through rule books to see if that has to be illegal. That has to be like that NASCAR driver who said, "You know what? I'm going to do that thing I used to do on my PlayStation and just ride the rail all the way out there and pass 5 freaking cars." like that can't possibly.
It's like Teen Wolf, right? There's no rule against it, so it must be legal.
It's gotta be legal.
Yeah, the Cal player, like the other thing that he did that I thought was hilarious, because it's just like all these things we assume, he would take the snap and instead of just kicking it for dear life like so many American punters do, he would just stand there and wait until the guys got close to him and then he'd kick it because he's that tough. It's like it's good, it gets his guys downfield, but I love the attitude of that, which is like, "Hey mate, what are you going to do to me?"
They do that a lot in soccer as well, and it always makes me
I'm not really intimidated
nervous.
by you.
Yeah, it makes me so nervous. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Leo Laporte here. I am the founder and one of the hosts at the Twit Podcast Network. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do here at Twit, because I think it's unique. And I think for anybody who is bringing a product or a service to a tech audience, you need to know about what we do here at Twit. We've built an amazing audience of engaged, intelligent, affluent listeners who listen to us and trust us when we recommend a product. Our mission statement as Twit is to build a highly engaged community of tech enthusiasts. Well, already your ears should be perking up at that, because highly engaged is good for you. Tech enthusiasts, if that's who you're looking for, this is the place. We do it by offering them the knowledge they need to understand and use technology in today's world. And I hear from our audience all the time, part of that knowledge comes from our advertisers. We are very careful. We pick advertisers with great products, great services, with integrity, and introduce them to our audience with authenticity and genuine enthusiasm. And that makes our host-read ads different from anything else you can buy. We are literally bringing you to the attention of our audience and giving you a big, fat endorsement. We like to create partnerships with trusted brands who are in it for the long run, long-term partners that want to grow with us. And we have so many great success stories. Tim Broom, who founded IT Pro TV in 2013, started advertising with us on day one, has been with us ever since. He said, quote, "We would not be where we are today without the Twit Network." I think the proof is in the pudding. Advertisers like IT Pro TV and Audible that have been with us for more than 10 years, they stick around because their ads work. And honestly, isn't that why you're buying advertising? You get a lot with Twit. We have a very full service attitude. We almost think of it as kind of artisanal advertising, boutique advertising. You'll get a full service continuity team. People who are on the phone with you, who are in touch with you, who support you with everything from copywriting to graphic design. So you are not alone in this. We embed our ads into the shows. They're not added later. They're part of the shows. In fact, often they're such a part of our shows that our other hosts will chime in on the ad saying, yeah, I love that. Or just the other day, one of our hosts said, man, I really got to buy that. That's an additional benefit to you because you're hearing people our audience trusts saying, yeah, that sounds great. We always over-deliver on impressions, so you know you're going to get the impressions you expect. The ads are unique every time. We don't pre-record them and roll them in. We are genuinely doing those ads in the middle of the show. We'll give you great onboarding services. Ad tech with pod sites that's free for direct clients. Gives you a lot of reporting, gives you a great idea of how well your ads are working. You'll get courtesy commercials. You actually can take our ads and share them across social media and landing pages. That really extends the reach. There are other free goodies too, including mentions in our weekly newsletter that's sent to thousands of fans, engaged fans who really want to see this stuff. We give you bonus ads and social media promotion too. So if you want to be a long-term partner, introduce your product to a savvy, engaged tech audience. Visit twit.tv/advertise. Check out those testimonials. Mark McCrary was the CEO of Authentic. You probably know him, one of the biggest original podcast advertising companies. We've been with him for 16 years. Mark said the feedback from many advertisers over 16 years across a range of product categories, everything from razors to computers, is that if ads and podcasts are going to work for a brand, they're going to work on Twitch shows. I'm very proud of what we do because it's honest, it's got integrity, it's authentic, and it really is a great introduction to our audience of your brand. Our listeners are smart, they're engaged, they're tech savvy, they're dedicated to our network, and that's one of the reasons we only work with high integrity partners that we've personally and thoroughly vetted. I have absolute approval on everybody. If you've got a great product, I want to hear from you. Elevate your brand by reaching out today at advertise@twit.tv. Break out of the advertising norm. Grow your brand with host-read ads on twit.tv. Visit twit.tv/advertise for more details, or you can email us advertise@twit.tv if you're ready to launch your campaign now. I can't wait to see your product. So give us a ring. All right. We've got 9 minutes of stoppage. Can we do this? Can we do this whole picks thing pretty quickly here? We'll start with you, Jason Snell. You have the most incentive.
Oh, great. ReadKit. It's a great app. It's
Good
an
app.
RSS reader for
Love
iOS.
it.
ReadKit.
Okay.
New version is out now. 3.1 adds smart filters, which is really great because you can like filter your feed items based on whatever criteria you want. It's free with in-app purchase if you want to use some of these extra features like the smart folders.
You know,
it's a new version.
For a
They're very
technology
good.
that's dead, RSS is really quite vital, isn't it?
A lot of good RSS readers out there for iOS too, which I think is really interesting, right? Like this platform that is a really good platform, really solid, modern platform, and it's got lots of RSS readers. I mostly use NetNewsWire, but Reader is really good.
Yep.
ReadKit is really good. There are a bunch of others.
There's so many. I can't even decide which one to use. That's the problem.
And I'll give my tip again, which is I also use Feedbin, and my secret is that I have all my newsletters sent to Feedbin because Feedbin will consume emails and put them in your reader, and that is amazing because then I can open NetNewsWire or ReadKit, and all of those Substack emails and all those other emails that I get, they're all in the same place, so I can read them all in one place. I prefer that.
Will ReadKit do that as well, or no?
ReadKit is like all these will use Feedbin as a feed source. So you can use it.
So
you can use
totally.
it direct RSS, or you can use any of the feed syncing surfaces, like the one Feedbin that I use.
ReadKit. Read later in RSS
ReadKit.
for Mac, iPhone, and iPad. Free with in-app purchases.
It's good.
Andy Anatko. We have 3 minutes of stoppage left.
Okay. Well, this is a good one. Mine is a it's not a glue. It's actually it's a liquid plastic. So I broke my glasses, snapped them like clean in half, like at the bridge. That's the worst place to do it because it's not enough to just stick together. It has to hold together. And so after spending like 2 or 3 or 4 days trying to figure out what adhesive I wanted to use, I tried out this thing that I read about. It is not a glove. Here's the repair that it made, and as you can see, I don't care about like the structure of it. It is holding it together perfectly. I can even bend it because it's not a glue. It's actually plastic that it is actually deposited like on these glasses. It's very, very lumpy and very, very weird.
This also demonstrates that
looking.
you never go out, Andy, because I wouldn't want to wear those glasses.
No. So I'm saying, I'm telling you that I left this. What I'm going to do now that I've shown this off, I'm going to sand this down so that you don't actually see it. Right, because it is just plastic. So I wanted you to. I don't think you'll get the idea of like exactly how this works.
So you lump it on, and it holds it together.
No, what it does is it's really an interesting system. It's not a glue. The URL for Bondic is actually notaglue.com. So you get this little fairy wand for like list price is like $20. You can get it for $10.
Yeah. And
what it consists of is a little like applicator pen here that deposits just like a little tiny pen, like this liquid, like uncured plastic, and then you have this little ultraviolet light. So all it doesn't dry by air, it doesn't dry by heat. It cures it and turns this liquid into plastic. So the upshot of that is that now it's unlike a 2-part epoxy where it'll take a day for it to cure. So you can stick it together, but you don't know if it's going to hold until a day later. With this one, you can literally draw a line. Like I'm know. I'm telling you that I left it like this. You can see what the process was like. I just like taped it down to a piece of cardboard to hold it into place, and then just draw a line of this liquid, shine this light for 3 or 4 seconds to turn it to plastic, another line. So you can basically build up this big glob of plastic that's actual, not just hardened glue. It is actually plastic. Like I said, this is not like I can bend this and it's not coming apart. And then when it's done, you can touch it, and it feels exactly like the plastic, the acetate that's on these glasses. So I can then take a little piece of sandpaper around a chopstick or something and sand that down and basically turn it into nice smooth out all the globs. I just wanted to make sure that I had this really, really nice like bolus of hardened plastic around holding these two together. So yes, it does look ugly as is, but again, you can sand it, you can paint it after you've accomplished the repair. It'll fill gaps. So that if you have like one of the demonstrations that they have on the site is that like if you have like a power connector that has like sort of a cracked end to it, or like a missing some insulation or something, you can just basically layer some plastic on that and seal that up. It's not necessarily flexible like rubber, but it's not like super, super hard plastic. It has some flex to it. So you can use it to fill in missing chunks you might have broken out of something. The only disadvantage is that it's not, if it were like a 2-part epoxy and 2-part epoxy putty, you can just basically put this big glob of putty around something and you got it. With this one, you do have to build it up like a millimeter at a time because, again, you are curing it as you go every time you deposit a line. So it's, you have to keep each line or each layer to about 1 millimeter so that the light can get all the way down to the bottom and cure it. The other thing that after reading about this, like I could have put this, when I taped this up onto that little board, I actually left a tiny, tiny little gap between the halves so that not just so that the glue could get into there, but so that the light could get into there. If I'd made this, if I had tried to like glue like a handle back on a mug, it might not have even worked because the Bondic that's inside that joint is never going to see the light, so it's never going to cure. But anyway, it's really, really great stuff. It's so useful that I'm kind of contemplating like buying another one of these for my overnight bag or for when I take trips. It seems as though a very quick solution to a problem that is kind of indispensable. And the last thing is, again, there's no curing time. 4 seconds. I spent like 15 minutes building up this disgusting snot ball. That again, I'm going to sand down. I'm going to paint. It's going to look fine. But about like 5 minutes after that was done, I could just wear these glasses and it was strong as it was ever going to be. So
nice.
Great stuff.
UV curable resins, as they say. It's not a glue. Bondic at notaglue.com. And somebody says, how is it Andy doesn't have a Twitch channel? Just, just like stuff like that. Just stream all that stuff,
I don't know if you want to live stream me playing Stratego alone, but hey.
That's sad.
Hey, thanks for super chat. That's Stratego.
That's so sad. Oh my God, don't say that.
If there's money in it, I'll go for it. That's fine.
I think we'd watch you curing your polymers, frankly.
If you know what I mean.
Say his channel is like watching polymers cure.
Not a euphemism.
Mr. Alex Lindsay.
Show title.
Your pick of the week.
So my pick of the week is this was just released yesterday. This is Sound Devices, which we use a lot of Sound Devices.
Oh boy, do we use those? Yeah,
we use a lot of them, and they have basically rethought wireless transmission. So they bought a company called Audio Limited about 4 or 5 years ago. And they, at first it was just like reselling the stuff that they already made, but they definitely started digging in and building new things. And what they've built is this, what's called an A20RX. And this is a receiver. Now, usually when we get these receivers, they're 1 U per receiver. Like it is like for really high end receivers, they're these big, you put them in a huge rack. If I've got 8 people, I've got a rack that's like 2 feet high, 3 feet high that are serving them. They figured out how to get all of that into half of 1 U. Wow. So this will receive up to 16 fully diverse signals. It also covers the entire wireless band, or just about the entire wireless band of the world, and you can just pick where you want those signals to go. And oh, by the way, if you want to change where that signal is in it, you can just tell the transmitter, oh, I need you to move over here. Like you can see literally on a web page or on the front of the receiver, you can actually see all the frequencies that are going on. And usually we have specialists and all kinds of people like paying attention to that. But you can say, oh, there's a bunch of stuff in this area. Why don't I just move this over somewhere else? And when I move it, I literally just tap on the screen and then say which receiver I want to move over there. And it just moves. And it automatically, like I don't have to go to the receiver or the transmitter.
Oh, that's nice.
It just tells the transmitter, I need you to move over here. And it's gone for like a second. And then it's like, okay, now I'm over here. You control all the volume. You don't have to change the gain on the transmitter. So you basically, all those controls are all centralized. So, then it's, of course, it sits on Dante or analog or AES, and it is, there's very few times that you look at a box and you're like, I can't believe they did this. Like, I can't believe that they put this all together. And anyway, so it's a pretty amazing box. This is a professional box. It's got a professional price. I think it starts at like $14,000. This isn't like a 10 cent thing.
That's 20 Alex's. Oh,
yeah, but
okay.
you couldn't get it any other way. And again, every once in a while you see something you're just like, it may be a lot of money, but it is a disruptive piece of hardware.
You'd use this in movie production, TV.
TV, live events. I mean, right now there's no wireless handheld, so it probably wouldn't be used in a concert. But
a referee might use it at a football game
potentially. Yeah. Yep. And then the range is really,
frankly.
Yeah. And yeah, no, it solves a lot of problems because again, I do a lot of events that are in a venue. It has, a bunch of seats in it and it's got to go to other venues. And so we're miking everybody up. And the problem we end up with is I've got this huge rack of gear to get this working. And then if it doesn't work, I got to run over and manage the transmitter. I got to run over and do all these other things. And it's just, to take all of that out of the way. And again, because it's on a web page that you can control it and that web page has total control over the system, I can have a technician log in from 3,000 miles away and change the mics, like literally change the frequencies. Like I'm going to move these frequencies around. And so I can have someone on the ground that may not know as much about the system as but can put the mics on, like do those things and have somebody else running the whole thing, and so it's really, really interesting. And we had Paul Isaacs, who's the director of product management and design, and Gary Trenda, who was their RF applications engineer on this morning on office hours, spending an hour with us, like walking through it and answering our questions and everything else. And it was just an incredible, you definitely, if this at all sounds interesting, you should look at that hour because it's just a really, I kind of twisted a lot of arms. As soon as I saw the release, I'm like, you got to come on the show. Like, they're like, when? And I'm like, tomorrow. tomorrow.
Nice.
Come on the show. So I was so excited about it.
Sound Device has been on many times before, but this is cool. This is really cool.
Yeah, it's a, and I've been using, of course, I'm talking through a Sound Devices Mix Pre 3 right now.
We use them like crazy.
Yeah, and so I use a lot of Sound Devices equipment, and so it's not just that they came up with something that on paper is really cool. It's a company that builds rugged, can't fail kind of equipment. So that when they say, oh, it can do this thing, it can really do the thing that
when
it says.
We went down to LA to watch them shoot Dexter. It was a big old 16 channel Sound Devices thing in the sound.
By the way, one of the panelists on Office Hours, it turns out when we were down there, he was the sound engineer. He was the sound recordist. Because I was like, he mentioned that I was at Dexter, and I was like, I didn't know him back then, but he knew, because from MacBreak, he knew who I was, and so he probably at Courtney.
That's
Goodman,
awesome. Yeah,
he was probably the person.
The showrunner was a fan.
I was like, I kept on looking at him going, I kept on looking at him like, I know you look familiar. I can't quite figure out where. He's like, Dexter.
That's so cool. And he loves Sound Devices too. Everybody's favorite. I don't usually do a pick, but this one I thought was kind of wild, and I thought you might get a little kick out of it. I was stunned to learn that there are more than 700 Mac menu bar programs. And now, wait a minute. For some reason, the certificate on this is died. I can't get in there anymore. MacMenuBar.com lists all of them. See if you guys can go. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I was watching too much football. Blocked due to a security threat. Well, I'm not allowed there.
Well, I see it.
There. I see it.
I see it.
So Cisco Umbrella is protecting us right now. But yes, I would show it, but I can't. MacMenuBar.com. Well, now I'm worried. I shouldn't recommend it.
That was an interesting little insight. Leo was saying, oh, well, geez, I've got a security program that's telling me this is a dangerous site. Jason, and I was like, oh, I just
go there.
I checked it. Oh, wait, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Welcome to Mac users. They're like, it sounds dangerous. Let's go.
Let's go.
So it's
probably only dangerous to him. I'm probably fine.
It's apparently got some malware on there. I don't know. So maybe that's a spurious block, but anyway, maybe you shouldn't go there until we find out. So forget I said anything. Cool. Let's wrap this show real quick. This is why I don't do freaking picks. Okay, right there in a nutshell. That's the problem. I just thought it was interesting that there were 700 plus menu bar apps.
And that someone has put a lot of work into curating a site like this. It looks very nice.
And I went there this morning. It was fine. So maybe there's two possibilities. It could be a false positive. There's a lot more security here than there is perhaps at my home. It's also possible, and it does happen from time to time, that as a legit site, it got hacked and malware's placed on it, and it's being detected now by our protection. So maybe just wait. Don't go there yet. Okay. Maybe you don't need anything more in your menu bar. How about that? Jason Snell.
There are no life-saving menu bar apps.
I misread the UTC time for the World Cup game, or I would have never scheduled MacBreak Weekly at this time. But thank you.
You come first.
Thank you.
And I can always just play it on an iPad beneath the screen, which is what I did. So it's all good.
And with no spoilers, we won't tell you how it ended, but it did end. There's that to be said, and what I said, it was not I guess it's safe to say it was not a tie. Somebody won. By now, you probably all know anyway. So
Indeed.
I don't want to spoil it in case you taped it or something. Thank you, Jason. 6colors.com. I appreciate that you're showing up. That's really great.
I try to be here every Tuesday. They haven't stopped me yet.
This was under duress.
No. Absolutely not.
Well, the Netherlands game, maybe that will be under duress if that's also on a Tuesday.
It's not. It's Saturday.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
For whoever's playing the Netherlands, I don't know who that might be.
Whoever that might be. Not that we would want to watch necessarily. Shoot. I blow it every time, don't I? Thank you, Jason. Keep up the wonderful work. We love having you on the show. You've been a real wonderful addition to it. Andy Anako's been here practically since the very beginning. IHNATKO.com. You'll hear him on GBH. They dropped the W because you know what? One letter, 3 syllables. It's too much.
Well, it's a public radio station. They rely on funding from viewers. They figure, why are we wasting bandwidth that we have to pay for with an extra letter when people understand GBH? They understand that we're east of the Mississippi. They understand that a radio station will start with a W.
That's right.
That's why we cultivate these smart and endearing listeners.
When will you be on GBH next?
A little early tomorrow at about 1:45. Go to WGBHnews.org to stream it live or later via audio. Go to WGBH News on YouTube to stream it video live or later in a room almost exactly like this one.
I should mention that KGBH is the pirate radio station of the Russian Mafia and Grand Theft Auto. So you don't want to confuse the two, okay?
Well, one of us is a little bit more communist and socialist than the other. It's degrees. You're slicing the onion a little bit thick at that point.
Mr. Alex Lindsay, officehours.global is a modern miracle.
We have a lot of fun.
It's unbelievable what you do. And if you listen to the show, you got to know that if you ever had a live production that you wanted to put on in the real world, there would be no better place than 090.media, because that's where you could get Alex and his amazing team to support you, and you would have the best production ever. Why anybody uses anything else, I'll never know. Seriously. I mean,
we have a lot of fun.
I just watch what you guys do. It's mind-boggling. You can learn all about it, maybe become a competitor by going to officehours.global. I'm watching those great shows every day.
We really think that, I really approach it as the market is about to get really big, and I just want to keep getting bigger. I'd rather have a small portion of a very fast-growing pie. So so Office Hours, we really lay it all out and give you every piece of information that we can about live streaming, virtual production, media production. It's a lot of fun. So
we are, as you know, we're going to, I'm not going to do the radio show for the radio company anymore. And as additional news reports emerge, you might know why. But that ends December 18th, and Micah and I are going to continue to do the Tech Guy show, but we're going to do it on Sundays, and we're going to take phone calls via Zoom and stuff. And it's frankly an homage to Office Hours, because we're just going to try to steal every trick in the book that you guys use to do that kind of live production.
Well, the thing that is going to be hard is the big panels. We have a panel of between 10 and 20 people every morning.
No,
you need some specialized software that we use to do that. And
we're not nuts.
It's an incredible group of people. That's the best part. It's not just me up there. There's a bunch of folks that are smarter in many different places than I am, answering the questions as well as I am. So it's even if you think I'm not very smart, there's a lot of smarter people out there.
Pretty impressive. And thank you for your consultation, because we are able to do the radio show without the radio station, thanks to you. And it's going to be better because we're going to be able to Zoom. We're going to get calls. We'll see people as well as hear them, and it's going to be great. Fun. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. If you want to watch the show, you can. We stream it live as we produce it, as we do with most of our shows at live.twit.tv. If you're watching live, chat live at irc.twit.tv. Of course, if you're a member of Club Twit, you get the very wonderful ability to chat in our Discord, which is waffles not included, which is an incredible, I don't know, I guess it's Waffle Day? Okay. Rudy says it's Waffle Day, so celebrate with some Belgian waffles. Okay, stop it. Now stop it. They are kind of animated GIF crazy at the Discord. You also get ad-free versions of all of our shows for $7 a month. You're paying us, so we don't have to charge. We don't have to make you listen to anything. We just do ad-free versions. You get shows you don't normally get, like Hands on Macintosh with Micah Sargent, Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott, the Untitled Linux Show. The Twit Plus feed also has bonus content, pre- and post-show discussions, all sorts of things, including, by the way, an Inside Twit episode, which is coming up in January 19th. Lisa and I will talk to the club about what's going on. Stacey Higginbotham's book club on January 12th is Project Hail Mary. And coming up, it's in a couple of weeks. Glenn Fleischman gets back from his jaunt through Germany, and we'll be doing a fireside chat with Ant Pruitt, our community manager. That's some of the other things that happen in Club Twit. I think it's the best $7 you can spend. You don't get a blue check, but it's $1 less. Twit.tv/club to join, and thank you, because it makes a big difference frankly, in our ability to keep doing what we do. And we want to keep doing what we do. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next time. Now get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Go!
Go! I'm Jason Howell. How do you thank your hardworking team? Well, with a Club Twit corporate subscription, of course. You can show your appreciation and reward your tech team with a subscription to Club Twit, and that way they'll be informed and entertained with podcasts covering the latest in technology. With a Club Twit subscription, they're going to get access to all of our podcasts ad-free, the members-only Discord, exclusive outtakes, behind-the-scenes and special content, and exclusive shows like Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, and the Untitled Linux Show. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit and look for corporate plans for complete details.